12 years. That's how long I stood beside Madison, building a life that looked perfect from the outside. A luxury condo in Rittenhouse Square, expensive dinners with venture capitalists, sleek cars, and marriage everyone assumed was as polished as the marble countertops in our kitchen. But behind all of it was a woman who never saw me as her partner. Only another name on her calendar, another task to manage, another extension of her power. That morning, she didn't even look up from her phone when she said it. Go wherever you want. If you ever leave me, you'll come crawling back to apologize. No hesitation, no emotion, just her usual clipped, controlled voice, the same one she used to fire people in boardrooms. I'd heard 1,000 versions of that tone over the years. When I didn't answer her fast enough, when I tried to explain why I was unhappy, when I told her I missed how things used to be, she'd listen with a blank expression, maybe a slight smirk, then pivot to something about work. I stopped recognizing my own wife a long time ago, somewhere between her second promotion and the moment she started treating our anniversary dinners like networking opportunities. She always controlled the conversations, corrected my posture at events, interrupted me mid-sentence to save the discussion. At first, I told myself it was temporary, that the pressure of her job made her cold, that once she had everything she wanted, we could go back to being people again. But that morning, something in me just stopped. It was like a switch flipped. I was staring at the woman I married, and I couldn't find even a flicker of warmth in her eyes. Just calculation. That was when I said it. We'll see. 2 simple words. She didn't react, just adjusted her coat collar and walked out. I stayed in that kitchen for a while, listening to the echo of silence she left behind. That kitchen had hosted fundraisers, catered parties, interviews. But in that moment, it was just cold quartz and steel, and a man who realized he'd become invisible in his own home. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't make a dramatic exit. I just made coffee, sat down at the table, and started remembering who I used to be. At some point, I stopped being a husband and started feeling like background furniture, always present, rarely noticed. Madison ran our marriage like a quarterly board meeting, complete with bullet points and follow-up emails. She didn't speak to me. She managed me. Her language was soaked in corporate lingo that never belonged at home. Daniel, let's align expectations on dinner, or we need to push back on the emotional cost of your reaction. It wasn't love. It was a merger gone stale. I remember once trying to surprise her with homemade lasagna, the kind I used to make when we first moved in together, before all the titles and IPOs. She took one bite and said, "Next time, just order from somewhere. Efficiency matters." It wasn't the food that stung. It was that look, the subtle wrinkle of her nose, like I'd offered her something beneath her standards. Eventually, I stopped cooking altogether. What was the point? Every gesture turned into a performance review. She dissected how I folded towels, questioned the logic behind the groceries I bought, even corrected the way I phrased goodnight. I was being managed down to silence. When I did speak up, when I tried to talk about feeling alone, about missing her, she'd nod like she was listening to a vendor pitch, then go right back to her laptop, inbox lighting up her face while mine stayed expressionless in the shadow beside her. Our bedroom was a museum of intimacy. We'd lie side by side, her fingers dancing across her phone screen, mine curled into fists I hid under the blanket. Family holidays, which had been our refuge, turned into logistical operations led by her assistant. I wasn't allowed to plan anything, just given a schedule and told where to be, what to wear, how to act. She'd laugh at me in front of guests if I got a detail wrong. Once, I forgot to confirm her brother's flight, and she muttered loudly enough for everyone to hear, "This is why I outsource important tasks." I didn't even flinch. I just smiled and took another sip of wine, the same way a house pet tolerates being dressed up for company. That's what I'd become, groomed silent, trained not to bite. It was supposed to be just another night in Madison's carefully orchestrated world. A black-tie gala in one of the most exclusive venues in Philadelphia, filled with investors, executives, polished socialites, all circling each other like sharks in designer suits. Madison thrived in these spaces, her posture perfect, her dress sleek and sharp, her tone always 2 steps ahead of whoever she was speaking to. I had done this routine 100 times. The tailored tuxedo, the polite nods, the practiced small talk with people who barely register my name, but always remember hers. I'd learned how to disappear next to her, smile when prompted, hold her clutch when she needed both hands for handshakes, and never, ever speak unless directly asked. We were standing near the bar when it happened. She was speaking with a tech investor, a billionaire with a frozen smile, and a voice like gravel polish for radio. They were discussing acquisition strategies. Something about vertical integration I stopped trying to understand years ago. I was half listening, half counting the seconds until we could go home. Then he asked her what her secret was. How did she balance her empire with a marriage? And that's when she laughed. Not the polite, camera-ready laugh she used in interviews. This was something different. She tilted her glass, looked right at me, and said, "Oh, Daniel? He's low maintenance. Like a well-behaved pet. Quiet, dependable, always where I need him to be." There was a pause, just long enough for my chest to tighten. Then polite laughter rippled around us. I stood there, smiling like I always did, but my face felt hollow. I felt her hand brush against my arm like I was a good dog she just praised. And just like that, I wasn't a man. I wasn't a husband. I was a punchline. The laughter blurred. The music, the clinking of glasses, the scent of champagne, and too much perfume. It all became a fog. I didn't speak. I didn't argue. I turned and walked straight out of the room, pushing through the velvet curtain into the cold air outside. I heard nothing but my own footsteps. Not a single person came after me. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Madison. I stared at the screen before answering. Her voice was brisk, not concerned, annoyed. "Daniel, where are you? You can't just leave. People are starting to notice. This doesn't look good." That was all she cared about. Not why I left, not how I felt, just the optics. When I got home, I didn't even take off the tux. I walked upstairs, pulled a suitcase in the closet, and started packing. I didn't need much, just enough to get away. She came in as I was folding a shirt, still in her gown, still holding her phone in one hand like the night hadn't ended. Her expression didn't flicker. "Seriously? Leaving?" She let out this short, sharp laugh and shook her head. "Go ahead. You'll regret it." I looked at her, really looked. The woman I married was gone, maybe had been gone for years. In her place stood someone who had built a kingdom and didn't notice that she buried her own partner beneath the foundation. I stood up straight, zipped the bag slowly, and met her eyes without blinking. "I'm not your employee, Madison." She rolled her eyes, dismissive, cold. I stepped past her without another word, paused at the doorway, and said it one last time. "We'll see." I drove across state lines with a single suitcase, and the weight of 12 years finally lifting from my chest. 900 miles of silence, broken only by the hum of the highway and occasional thought creeping in, asking me if I'd lost my mind, or finally found it. Denver welcomed me with crisp air and unfamiliar streets, and for the first time in years, no one was tracking my location, expecting a response within 5 minutes, or correcting the way I spoke. I wasn't Daniel Whitaker, the CEO's husband anymore. I was just Daniel. That alone felt like freedom. The job came faster than I expected. Senior analyst for a major logistics firm. Solid role, $190,000 a year, full benefits, and most importantly, peace. During the interview, my new boss, Patricia Morrison, sat across from me without once checking her phone. She asked real questions, listened without interrupting, and didn't treat my resume like a checklist. She didn't care about who I was married to, only what I could do. She was calm, self-assured without being arrogant. And when I joined the team, I realized how much I'd been starved of basic humanity in the workplace. People said good morning without an agenda. They laughed in meetings without it being performative. They invited me to lunch, asked about my weekend, actually listened when I answered. After years of being invisible, it felt surreal to be acknowledged. I kept waiting for the catch, for the moment someone would pull the curtain back and remind me I was still just someone's shadow. But it never came. I started sleeping through the night. My appetite returned. I found small routines again. Morning walks, coffee without a screen in my face, silence that didn't feel like punishment. The phone buzzed constantly at first. Madison. Her text came in waves. The first few days it was rage. "You're overreacting. Grow up. You made a scene." Then came the guilt. "You abandoned our life." I didn't mean it like that. "You're being dramatic." Eventually, desperation bled through. "Just talk to me. Come home. We can fix this." But I didn't answer. Not once. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I finally understood she never saw me as a person to begin with. Filing for divorce felt like taking the final match to a paper structure I'd been pretending was a home. She didn't take it well. Her lawyer called mine within hours of the filing. But I didn't care. Her empire, her control, her version of reality, it didn't reach me anymore. I had already left it all behind. For the first time in over a decade, I felt like I had my name back. Not a title, not a role, just Daniel. And that was more than enough. 3 weeks after I'd finally started feeling the ground steady beneath me again, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. On the other end was a woman named Amanda, her voice calm, careful, like someone rehearsing every word before saying it. "You don't know me," she began, "but I've been involved with Madison. I didn't know about you. Not really. Not until now." I didn't speak. I didn't breathe. She kept going. Every sentence more precise than the last, like she had practiced this a dozen times before deciding to call me. She told me they had been seeing each other for 8 months. 8 months. The number hit me like a gut punch. While I was sitting across from Madison at silent dinners, wondering why she was always colder than the wine she drank, she was with Amanda. While she rolled her eyes at my attempt to talk about the emptiness between us, she was booking hotel rooms in secret, laughing over shared desserts, living a double life while looking me in the face and calling me dramatic. Amanda told me she had only just learned the truth, that Madison had insisted we'd been separated for almost a year, that I was just some bitter ex who couldn't let go. She had believed her, until recently. Amanda sounded genuinely sick over it. She apologized more than once, not because she owed me anything, but because she felt used too. Then she did something I didn't expect. She sent me everything. Screenshots of text messages that made my stomach twist. Madison complimenting Amanda's perfume, calling her a relief from the chaos. Reservations at restaurants Madison used to take me to, wine bars, overnight stays, receipts charged directly to our joint account. I saw the names of hotels I'd noticed on our monthly statements but never questioned, chalking it up to work travel. I remembered asking her once, and she said, "Client dinners. Daniel, why do you always assume the worst?" Turns out I hadn't been assuming nearly enough. She wasn't just distracted. She wasn't just ambitious. She had been lying with precision, keeping me in place with empty promises and passive contempt while building another life behind my back. Looking at the receipts, seeing the time-stamped text where she laughed about me being too emotional to handle her world. Something in me snapped, but not in anger, just clarity. It was like seeing clearly after months in the fog. She hadn't just stopped loving me. She had strategically erased me, made room for someone else while keeping me around for image, routine, control. She calculated how to have both lives without ever having to be honest. That day, whatever part of me still wondered if I'd been too harsh by leaving, too impulsive, too emotional, it died. She had been cheating on me while watching me make her coffee in the mornings, while asking me to pick up dry cleaning, while letting me believe I was still part of her world. She didn't love me. She didn't even respect me. She used me. Amanda's call didn't break me. It confirmed what I had known deep down, but never wanted to admit. Madison wasn't just cold. She was manipulative, deceitful, and entirely hollow inside. And I was finally, undeniably, free. It didn't take long after Amanda exposed the truth for Madison's lawyers to come crawling. One morning, I opened an email marked confidential settlement proposal, and there it was in black and white. $2.3 million in cash, plus my $800,000 share in her company. But it came with strings thick enough to choke on. In exchange, I would have to sign a sweeping non-disclosure agreement. No public statements, no private conversations, not even a right to acknowledge the affair existed. It was a bribe, plain and simple. Blood money designed to keep her polished image intact while I was expected to disappear quietly. Again. I read the document 3 times, not because I was tempted, but because I needed to feel every insult baked into that offer. They were trying to buy my silence, to mop up her betrayal with enough zeros to make me forget who I was. But this wasn't about money. This was about what she'd taken from me, my dignity, my voice, and the years I spent trying to love someone who treated me like an extension of her brand. She wanted me to go back to being invisible, just better paid for it. I rejected it outright. No negotiation, no counter. I told my attorney to send a simple response. Mr. Whitaker seeks a fair split. He will not accept compensation in exchange for silence. That same evening, my phone rang. Her number, of course. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to hear her out. The moment I picked up, her voice came through sharp-clipped, already laced with fury. "You're walking away from millions," she snapped, like it was the most absurd thing she'd ever heard. "Do you even understand what you're giving up? You were nothing before me." I let the words land without flinching. I'd heard them before, dressed in quieter tones, delivered with a smile. This time they were bare. Her voice cracked at the end, not from sadness, just disbelief that her control no longer worked. I waited a moment, then spoke slowly, calmly, like someone watching a storm from behind glass. "You gave me things, Madison," I said. "Money, property, access, but not love, not respect, and I'm not for sale." Then I ended the call. It started quietly, just a Medium article written under a pseudonym, detailing the experience of working under a powerful female tech executive who weaponized charm in public and cruelty in private. No names, no direct accusations, just vivid, unflinching detail. The gaslighting, the emotional manipulation, the calculated punishments for disobedience disguised as leadership. But I knew the voice behind those words the moment I read them. Amanda. Her story was too sharp, too lived in, too real to be fiction. I hadn't spoken to her since that call, but I could feel her anger in every line. Not explosive or theatrical, just cold truth, finally let out. The article went viral within a week. Thousands of shares, tens of thousands of comments. Other voices joined in. Former assistants, junior partners, interns who had long buried their own stories out of fear or shame. Still, Madison's name wasn't mentioned, not once. But the business world is small and ego always leaves a signature. It didn't take long for people to connect the dots. Certain quotes, certain events, even phrases she was known for. Structure creates efficiency. Personal emotion is a cost. They were all there, haunting the paragraphs like ghosts. Investors pulled out almost overnight. Nexatech stock plummeted. Whispers turned to board meetings. And suddenly the woman who used the silence rooms with single glance found herself cornered by the very system she once controlled. The announcement came through a press release 2 months later. Madison Claire Whitaker would be stepping down as to focus on personal matters. But I knew better. Everyone did. She had been forced out, politely shoved off the throne she built on intimidation and spin. I read the headline while sitting at my kitchen window in Denver, cradling a warm mug of coffee, wrapped in a quiet that had become sacred to me. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel revenge. Just peace. I hadn't said a word to the press. I hadn't shared the screenshots, hadn't chased any headlines, hadn't posted a single thing. I didn't need to. The truth had its own momentum. And now, without me there prop her up, lie for her, carry her image on my back, her empire crumbled under the weight of everything she built it on. I watched it all happen from 900 miles away, untouched, unbothered, and entirely free. The promotion came quietly, without drama, without manipulation, without anyone trying to sell me on why I should be grateful. Just a conversation with Patricia, my boss, who looked me in the eye and said, "You've earned this." Director of Strategy, $240,000 a year. A team that looked to me for guidance, not approval. Co-workers who respected me for my ideas, not who I used to be married to. I wasn't trying to prove myself anymore. I was just living a life that finally felt like mine. Denver felt like home now. My apartment wasn't filled with cold glass and designer furniture no one was allowed to sit on. It was warm, lived in, a bookshelf cluttered with novels I'd never had time to read before. A kitchen that smelled like garlic and coffee, not bleach and silence. I had routines. I had solitude. I had space. And eventually, I had someone new. Her name was Sarah, a middle school teacher with ink on her fingers from grading papers, and a smile that didn't come with strings attached. She liked long walks, old movies, and eating pasta on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders. The first time she fell asleep against me mid-sentence, I almost cried, not because it was romantic, but because it was safe, peaceful, no performance, no agenda, just two people breathing in sync. One night, we were making dinner together, her stirring sauce, me chopping garlic, and my phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't even need to see the name. That tone, that timing, it was her. Madison. Just one sentence. "I need to talk." I picked up the phone, showed it to Sarah without a word. She looked at the screen, then at me, not with jealousy or suspicion, just quiet understanding. I pressed and held the message, then deleted it. Later, I found out more. Madison had lost her CEO title. Her reputation was in shambles, most of her former allies now pretending they never knew her. The woman who once owned every room was now navigating lawsuits and industry silence. But I didn't feel anything sharp or righteous. Just distance. The version of me who would have obsessed over her downfall was gone. I didn't need revenge. I had something better. I had mornings without anxiety, dinners that ended in laughter, and nights where I could close my eyes without feeling like I'd forgotten something. I had a partner who asked how my day was and actually listened. I had friends who liked me for who I was, Not who I stood beside at corporate galas. I had freedom. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet, steady kind that builds in your chest and finally lets you exhale. Madison took me for granted. She tried to shrink me to fit the corners of her empire, but she failed, because I left and I didn't look back. And now, when I look around at my life, my home, my work, Sarah, I know exactly what I have. Peace. Real, soul-deep peace. And it's more than she ever gave me. It's everything.